This is episode 71 of the Gauntlet podcast. My name is Jason.
I'm Lowell.
I'm Andrea.
And I'm Rich.
Lowell, tell us about Mutant Year Zero. What is that?
So this is the latest version of this Swedish RPG Mutant that came out originally in 1984, and it's had like 6 or 7 different versions, and Mutant Chronicles actually came out of it. It used to be Gamma World, and then it went Cyberpunk, and then it went, hard edged, and it's evolved over the years. But this most recent version is a real classic, sort of just straight post-apocalypse, but you all have mutant characters, and you're living in this wasteland, and there's kind of a meta story of it. And what's really interesting when I look at it is it looks kind of trad when you first examine the book, but you see all the lessons that it's learned from Apocalypse World. It has playbooks. It has very simple approaches. It has built into all the character choices, relationship building. It's got world construction. It's got all of those kinds of things wrapped up in a kind of a more blow-by-blow combat setup. And so I'm looking forward to doing it. We just had a chance to play, just to do the character creation, which took up most of a session, which involved, all the classic world building, drawing out the landscape, and having the characters kind of pick their playbooks and build stuff. And it was a switch. We switched right from a 2.5-year fantasy campaign to this. And the players, it took a while, but they're kind of on board.
Okay. Well, so what's your opinion of the game so far? Just what you've seen of it in terms of either the text or the little bit you've played. Does it seem like a good mix?
Yeah, I actually think it's one of the books of recent years that I've just enjoyed reading from start to finish for an RPG book. It's clearly written. The mechanics are simple. And this is a game with mechanics for tracking water, for tracking food, for tracking all of those kinds of things. But they're done so simply, and they're tied into the healing system that they're easy to do. And everybody's got a random mutant power, and they've got a deck of cards for that. And they've got cards for all of the artifacts and things. And it's fun. I really like it. I mean, it's not doing the kind of all the relationship stuff that PBTA does, but it's leaning hard into that. Even though we've got, specialized D6s that we have to track the symbols on, and we're rolling those for combat, and we got markers.
Right, yeah.
And I know that sounds complicated, but it's got a 2-page character sheet, but it looks like it actually plays out really simply.
Are these the original publishers or authors of the game, from 1984, or are new people handling it?
I'm pretty sure new people are handling it. The license is passed around quite a bit, but it is translated from the Swedish version. So, it's had its lifespan there, and they've been bringing it over and doing a really good job with it.
Cool. Yeah, it's good to see older games that get re-released, with sort of more contemporary thinking or modern thinking in terms of rules, right? Because, you look at a lot of these, there are some of these sort of nostalgia Kickstarters that have been happening lately, and some of them, it doesn't seem like they're changing much. They're just kind of releasing it again with, fresh coat of paint. And then you have other games that have had 7 editions and still haven't managed to land where they want to. So, it's a thing that happens.
There's one other thing I should say about it is it has built in very much at the start that there is a community, and the players are in charge of the community, and they make decisions. At the start of each session, you randomly generate a threat, and the players choose a project for their community. And they've got in the book all these kinds of things like, okay, we're going to build a pig pen, and that's going to increase our food. Or we're going to build a library, and that's going to increase our culture. And there's a robust set of mechanics for that, and the players were super excited about that. They were all...
I love that. Yeah.
They were like, cool. How do we get more points? What do we have to do? And I told them, well, when you go out and explore, you can get, relics, essentially the equivalent of magic items. When you go out and get those, if you give them away to the village, then you can get more points for that. So they get to give up their treasure to make their village better. And I can't wait to see that tension and hammer them on it. So I'm looking forward to that.
There are a couple of games that I have considered playing in the past that have a mechanic similar to that, where you have like a noble house or a base or something that is constantly developing or coming to mind. I think Pendragon does that, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe the new, or not the new, but the Song of Ice and Fire role-playing game has a similar thing, I believe. But I love that. I wish more games had stuff like that.
And it's easy enough done that it doesn't eat up a whole bunch of time. It looks like it'll be quick decisions, simple choices, and yet it'll be satisfying, I think, to the players.
Cool. Awesome. Is there anything else you want to say about Mutant Year Zero?
No. Looking forward to running it.
Cool. Awesome. Andrea, how is Shadows of Esteren going?
So we've hit kind of a weird point. Something really weird happened. So we've made very poor life decisions, essentially, in the game. And by we, I mean the other PCs. My character was right the whole time. Just putting that out there. So we've put this mad woman on the throne who's possibly possessed by a fiend, which they're kind of like demons. It's not good news. There's a fiend that's running loose in the city now because of choices we've made. There's a murderer running loose in the city who may or may not be the new queen. It's complicated. So
okay, good.
We got to this point where all of us are like, we don't know what to do. We don't know what the next step is. How do we proceed from here? And it was just too overwhelming. So we all kind of talked it out, and we wanted to do a time skip. You know, have a couple of years go by.
That's smart. Yeah,
and then just come back, and the city is so much worse, and this is our fault. But at least it would kind of get rid of that overwhelming sense of there's a rock that's falling on our heads, and we just don't know where to go. We can just start fresh plotline, but all that work and effort we did in destroying civilization is still there. But our GM did not want to do that because he thought we were escaping the consequences of our actions, and I'm like, no, not really. So it was this really weird discussion. Ultimately, we decided just to make new characters, start over in a different part of the world, but we'll still get news of this city's demise.
Okay.
But it's still like a real bummer.
Wow.
Yeah, that's... Yeah, I'm with you on that. That kind of sucks. Like,
I can't imagine. I'd be a little PO'd.
Yeah, I mean, especially because it sounds like you guys came up with a pretty good solution. I mean, you abstracted a little bit, right? You summarize, you epilogue, you know, a love letter, right? It's a love letter concept. That's kind of a bummer. I'm sorry.
It is a bummer, but I'm kind of disappointed, but we're really looking forward to actually having new characters and starting new storyline and starting over. But it was this really weird, I wouldn't say a disagreement, but it was a weird discussion because the GM very clearly wanted this one thing. He wanted us to have to face the consequences of our terrible decision-making skills. And the rest of us just kind of wanted to go on with the story. And I've never really experienced that before, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's kind of strange. For listeners who may not have heard the first time you talked about Shadows of Esteren, can you give them just like maybe the 60-second summary of what Shadows of Esteren is?
Yes. Shadows of Esteren, it's a gothic horror game. It's very gritty. It's very realistic, quote-unquote realistic, in the sense that most people are dealing with starvation and disease and bandits more so than, oh no, there's a giant monster. And the monsters, the fiends, are these kind of abstract demonic concepts that in the first book, they don't even really explain. It's like, you know these are out there, and if you encounter one, you are so screwed. And they've since like detailed them and given them stats, which is sort of disappointing, but whatever.
Now you can actually, you could technically fight them and kill them, right?
Like, we choose to not let ours have stats. It's scarier that way. But so it's a gothic horror kind of medieval themed game.
Cool. Thank you. Good. I still need to check that game out. As you were describing that overview, it just occurred to me, you know, I think if your GM, like, you know, if there's a little bit of distance between that plot line you guys had going on and this new one that you're doing, you know, if that time like affords them the opportunity to kind of look at that older plot line with fresh eyes and start to help, you know, maybe can draw some things together and make more sense of it. I think that's a good thing. It's interesting. You know, on our other podcast, Discern Realities, we do this little short AP segment that lasts like 10 or 15 minutes. And we do about 5 to 10 little segments before we switch over to a new character in a totally different part of the world. But we have like a big grand plan there, right? Like we're jumping around because they're all leading towards something, you know? The listeners don't know that, but we do, right? And so, I think if that is the end result, like there are like some connections between those two big storylines, I think that could be cool.
Absolutely. That would be really cool. But it sounds like he's still going to kind of carry on. But this is happening over here, but we may not actually be submerged in it again. It may just be sort of this background noise, which is fine too, because we get to watch the city burn because we're awful people. But yeah, it's just I kind of wanted to talk about the different sides of that coin with the GM and the players.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say? Like, is there anything we need to discuss? Or
no, not really. It's just odd.
Yeah, no, it's odd. Yeah, I hope it works out well for you guys. Do you guys have any questions or anything before I keep going?
So the GM did he just want to punish you guys? Is that really what he wanted?
Like, I don't know. Because I'm like, but it's not like we're walking away. You know, this is like this classic Dragonlance thing. You know, you leave for 5 years, you come back, and everything is terrible. And it's your fault.
Raceland's wearing a black robe.
That's what you offered.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you offered, and he refused it. So he wanted to. It seems like he directly wanted to punish those characters for their poor decisions and would not accept any other alternative. That's pitiful, really. Like that feels like he wants to tell his story, and that's a shame.
Yeah.
Well, I
especially if the players got together and asked to do that. I mean, if my players got together and came and made a request about structure or purpose of the game, I'd be like, okay, I got to do it. You know, I'll make that change.
I think that's, you know, I think there's a separate conversation there about like play cultures, you know. I don't know anything about your GM, Andrea, but apart from, you know, the little bits that you've given us here, but I can totally see a more like traditional GM player power dynamic where that's going to be a really common occurrence, right? And I think it just I think the play culture that the GM helps create is a big part of that. But I think that's probably a longer conversation for another day, maybe.
Yes, definitely.
Let's bring him on. Let's bring him on the next episode.
I don't know. Now that we've sufficiently put him on blast, we should all right. Was there anything else you want to say about it, Andrea?
Absolutely not.
All right. Thanks for sharing that. Rich, what's Dream Stories Play by Post?
Okay. Well, Dream Stories Play by Post is a game that Paul, who I've mentioned previously, he and I will often have a play-by-post going where I'm running a game, he's playing a character, he's running a game, I'm playing a character. And this is the one we've been playing for about 5-6 months. It started off as Sharn Tales because the idea behind it was he was playing a character in modern day who had a really boring, mundane job. We would do a little bit of freeform there, like a scene. Then when he goes to sleep, he's dreaming in Dungeon World in the city of Sharn, because I think Eberron and Sharn is really fascinating. And as the story developed and his character in Dungeon World went along, he was kind of a noir type character that investigated things, and he had a few associates, and they would go on, you know, missions and do all kinds of exciting tales. And then he meets a couple characters, and then in the Wake World, he goes to a bar, and one of the serving wenches from his favorite bar in the dream is a waitress at the bar and grill.
Okay.
And so there starts to become this little bit of crossover. He talks to the girl. They have the same name. He asks her if she knows anything about her dreams. She says, I don't remember my dreams. And so that goes on. And we're doing some exciting kind of back and forth mystery stuff between the waking world and the sleeping world. And him being heroic in the dreaming world kind of inspires his waking world. And his character actually quits his job and wants to go out and actually hit his dream job. And so there's all kinds of cool stuff going on. And then his Dungeon World character dies.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was a thing. So we went through a bit of like, okay, what do we do? And that's when Sharn Tales became Dream Stories or Dream Tales. And he went into another dream and we shifted to Monster of the Week. and he just picked up with a new character, and then we reintegrated characters from the Sharn Tales through a different lens, but kind of the spirit of it, kind of that Wizard of Oz thing of like, oh, that's not the Tin Man, that's so-and-so. So we were able to use those touchstones without having to kind of build back up from ground zero. That was cool, and I've really enjoyed that because he loves Monster of the Week, and Use Magic is one of his favorite moves in all the PBTA games we've played. So the last thing I want to kind of throw out is that over the past couple of quote-unquote, sessions or scenes, I've kind of thrown a thing at him. He, in the dream world of Monster of the Week, went to this club that was mystical and magical and baleful and bad. Then he ends up going out on a date and ends up in the real world going out on a date and ends up in the same dance club. And so he's kind of freaking out because he's like, but wait, I don't have magic powers. This is a total normal everyday thing. Is this right, horrible? Yeah. Is this evil? And he runs into a girl who is wigged out. And after a conversation, she kind of just drops it on him. I've dreamt about this place. I'm totally wigged out. So now that character in her dreams is trying to seek him out in his dreams. And so we've got all kinds of cool Nexus, like crossover stuff going on.
It's like Inception, man.
It is. It's really neat. It's fun because we're discovering it in plays. He's got this little top that he spins, and so I'm just really excited by it because some of the crossover points have become interesting, and we're dealing with that. Okay, so how do we want him to be fully cognizant and aware, or do we not? So there's a little bit of meta talk, but the story itself has been just really fascinating to me. It's been some of the most fun PvP I've been doing for a while.
Play by post seems like a particularly good format for telling a story like that, right? I mean, that feels like a distinct advantage of play-by-post over face-to-face. That would be so hard to pull off face-to-face, and keeping it all straight.
Yeah. I really don't know if I would have the guts to pull it off. Being able to go back and look at specific scenes and kind of pull quotes and then overlay them and re-describe things in the dream world versus the waking world and having that actual text is extremely helpful for somebody like me who's kind of forgetful. That's what I like about it.
We have so much play-by-post going on in the Gauntlet. I know your and Paul's thing is not organized through the Gauntlet, but we do have a lot of that are organized, like with people in the Gauntlet. And I wish there was a way of capturing that text, maybe formatting it so it looks pretty and readable. I feel like that's something people might be interested in. In Japan, they love shit like that, right? So maybe in America they would. I don't know. But
it always feels like it until you actually do it, and you're like, oh man, our stuff is not as beautiful as we like. It's like watching your game on YouTube and like, oh, I love this. Here, come watch this, honey. And my wife, she's like, that's like 3 hours long.
Yeah, it's so true. Well, it was just a thought.
How long did the first one run? The Dungeon World?
That ran for the majority of the game, about 3 months before his character died.
Oh. And how did he die?
It was, well, so Sharn, we had airships. He tried to jump onto an airship, blew it, tried to jump off into a little floating thing, blew it, then attacked a guy, blew it. And I was just like, okay, I gotta follow the fiction. He's dead.
Oh.
Yeah. It was sad when his character woke up. He went into like a full depression. It was rough. It was rough.
That's awesome.
I think you should find a way to make Plessy involved in this somehow. But then you actually have to like type out the word Plessy. That sounds like a real shame.
So much Plessy hate here.
It's a real commitment.
I threw shade on Ramshackle, so you can hate on Plessy. It's fine.
I was getting you back for that. I'll give you some Plessy
nice.
Shade. Cool. Is there anything else you want to say about that?
No, I'm good.
Andrea, what is Filthy Shades Cliché?
Okay.
All right. So
this is not episode 69.
I'm sorry, I missed it. I missed the vote. It's my fault. So, Filthy Shades Cliché. It's a really fun 2-person game that just makes fun of really, really bad fan fiction and romance novels, which may or may not be implied by the name. Because I've never read 50 Shades. I've just read a lot of excerpts that are on the internet that are hilarious.
Right. Yeah, out of context, I imagine they are, especially,
in
right?
Context, I think they are too. Well, I mean, I was a teenager in the 90s. Like, there was fan fiction. I wrote some. I'm not going to lie. So this game takes really poorly written sex scenes and romance scenes and basically hands the reins to you and says, here's a list of words, and the person who uses the most words in each one of these categories gets the most points. So you have props, you have foreplay, you have orgasm, you have the aftermath, like you have all these different categories, and you take turns going back and forth writing. One player plays the dom, one plays the sub. And of course the dom is the rich, kinky, aggressive male, and the sub is the, diminutive female who, just is inexperienced, but just has this little bit of kink and naivete that he finds so
waiting
enticing.
to be unlocked, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we gender flipped it because why not? And it was a really fun game. It's definitely a safe space game is what I call them, where you can't just walk into the middle of a con floor with 5-year-olds and start playing this. This was it was fun to play with my boyfriend because, sexy times. And it was fun going back and forth and having that, my male character is gonna, pull her forward by the chain connected to her collar, and it was just fun to be completely ridiculous and really draw on that fan fiction writing experience. I smoked him. I actually felt a little bit bad, but that's okay.
Okay.
So it was really fun. It was it was a good investment for 50 cents.
I'd want to hack it for Chuck Tingle stories, personally. I'm just going to throw that out there. I think that'd be pretty great.
Yeah.
Instead of the Dom man, you have a billionaire Triceratops, right? That'd be great. Or the unicorn colonel or whatever. That'd be pretty awesome. Rich, did you send me a little thing about how Zoe Quinn is doing a game?
Yeah.
A Chuck Tingle, procedural generated game or something.
I think it's an FMV VR Chuck Tingle game. That sounds great.
Oh, nice. Love Chuck Tingle. So good. Awesome. Andrea, is there anything else you want to say about Filthy Shades Cliché?
Oh, it was a lot of fun, and I'm really excited I get to talk to people about it.
You get to talk to a lot of people about it right now.
Yes.
So. Cool. Awesome. Is that just a board game that you can buy in online or something, or is it
I think he got it on drive-through.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I was curious where it came from. Cool. Awesome. Rich, I gather you got a chance to play Lady Blackbird. Imagine that. Oh my God. Well,
yes, I did. I know.
It's hard to believe, I know.
Okay, in my defense, not that I can be defended, but it is numbered.
It's very Tridendal, by the way. So.
Yes, so. It's so much so. Now, this is play number 10 of Lady Blackbird, my 10th session this year, so I lock in rung, that play for rung 10.
For the ladder.
For the ladder of insanity. This one was pretty special, and I wanted to talk about it, not just because it's Lady Blackbird, which is maybe my favorite game ever, but also because of the people that I got a chance to run it for. When I was on the Jim McClure's Talking Tabletop show, his interview show, I mentioned Lady Blackbird was one of my favorite games. He said that he hadn't played it. Well, when the Misdirected Mark heard that episode, they, in their episode, said, "We haven't played it either. Rich, please run this game for us." So, nice, so there were 3 players right there. And then I got a little greedy. I'm a fan of She's a Super Geek, which is a girl GM led or female or women or, whatever term makes you most comfortable for the gender led GM AP cast that I like quite a bit. And so I invited both Emily and Cinda from that. Emily unfortunately wasn't able to make it, but Cinda was. We played last night or night before last as of this recording. And it's on my YouTube channel, and we recorded the AP. I think it may be coming out on the Misdirected Mark. I'm not sure. But if you want to check it out, it's freely available. It was almost 4 hours. It was a long session.
That's almost enough to get done, though, right?
We did get done. We did. It was spectacular. These guys were on point and really, really solid. The collaboration level, the commitment to character, the fact that even though they hadn't played this game before, that they were kind of jumping feet first into the rules, the different play styles that I saw evidenced, and the biggest highlight for me was, I think that for a live session, it may have been the most romantic Lady Blackbird and Vance pairing that I'd witnessed, because it wasn't all at once. Like, it occurred over 4 different scenes and evolved, and you could just see it. It was Cinda and Phil. They just kind of locked into the angles for their character, and it was magical. Like, it was some great RP. I was just drawn in, and at the end, the bit was good. It ended gloriously. That's all I could say. It was good.
Good. Awesome. You said Misdirected Mark's going to do the audio of that, or it's on your YouTube channel?
It's on my YouTube channel, and we can include a link to that. Chris from Misdirected Mark did ask everybody to send him the audio file we all recorded separately. And so no guarantees, but he did ask for that, and I'm hopeful because I think it is a really good RP.
Cool. Is there anything else you want to say about it?
Lady Blackbird's a great game.
Yes, we've been told
by me over and over.
Is. All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap up our game discussion with Assassins of the Golden Age. Tell us all about that, Lowell.
This is going to sound weird because it is very much like what Rich was talking about earlier. Assassins of the Golden Age is part of the meta campaign that I've been running for about 3 years. And that's called Ocean City Interface. And it's actually built off of a premise that I've used as a campaign premise before, and another person has. And essentially it's that people get pulled into these other worlds and they act in them, and then they go back to the real world, which is Ocean City, and they meet each other and they meet people who are characters in that world, and then they get drawn to another world, and the worlds are called portals. And actually, when we started the campaign, I had everybody pick portals from a list. I had a big list of them, and so one person wanted cyber ninjas, and another person wanted, real classic fantasy, and then Sherry wanted Crimson Skies. So, we've got all of those things. And then this one is essentially my Assassins of the Golden Age, about 6 to 8 sessions we're going to do this arc. And it's essentially Assassin's Creed plus Mage the Sorcerer's Crusade, kind of all blended together.
Wow.
Okay.
That's awesome, man. That's cool.
Of course, we're using my Action Cards homebrew. So you have an individual character deck for your character. And when you go to a different portal, some of those cards change, but you keep part of the base deck. So there's a continuity of character between them that stays. And of course, then in between those little portal arcs, we go back to the real world and we do several sessions of the meta story there. But Assassins of the Golden Age it's one of those times that really shows me what my group is about, because we've been playing together for a long time. And the first part of this arc was, you go to Genoa. There's an election coming up. There are these 5 candidates. We know that a couple of them are backed by other factions. You have to get this person to win. And that's what they did for 3 sessions of investigation and planning and carrying out sabotage and writing up little flowcharts of people and realizing that they had to travel to Byzantium to rescue an enslaved son of one of the families and moving back and forth. And that's what they dig. They really like that kind of details and investigation and mystery that Rich would absolutely hate at the table. But now they've gone to do the second half of that arc. I've done kind of a mythic Russia, so they're in a Moscow setting, and there's a lot more magic going on there, and I have all of this Russian music, and I went through Pinterest and got all these Russian images to put on the television screen that runs behind me. One of the players, the player who chose the setting, was very into that. And I sketched out a lot of ideas for it, but I took a note from Threadbare, which is, at any point, she can say, well, I think this is what happens here in Moscow or Mythic Russia. My character's from here. I think this is what happens. And I say, okay, let's have you make a check. And if you do well, absolutely. That's exactly the way things are. If you don't do as well, yes, but there's this minor change, and she loves that.
Cool.
Because it's given her this power to really say, oh, I really want this to have happen. Okay, let's see if that's the case. It's another case of they have to kill 7 people there that are bad guys, and they're checking out everybody, and they built a little thing, and they've got a map of where all the people are at, and they have to do that. So again, the mystery, investigation, and planning for a full session.
Does it sound good, Rich?
I would die.
Yes.
I love it. I think it sounds great. I love mystery games. Quick question, Lowell.
Yeah.
This series of connected universes and things that you're doing through these portals, does your game have mega damage?
No, it does not. It does not, in fact, have mega damage. No.
Sorry, I'm just giving you a hard time.
No, I did actually steal for the meta story. I stole some elements from Feng Shui to give some of the backbone to the story. So that's been kind of fun.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds really neat. Out of curiosity, Lowell, I know you have your Crow's Mantle thing that you do also, and like your homebrews and hacks. Do you make that stuff available on Age of Ravens, or how does that work?
I put up notes about it, but I haven't put up the full version of action cards. I'm still kind of working on it, but it's a system we've been playing for like 15, 16 years. So there's a lot of the pieces are on the blog.
Okay, got it. Cool, awesome, sweet. Is there anything else you want to say about that?
No, I think I'm set.
Cool. Sounds really awesome. All right. Well, that's our game discussion. Nothing from me this week. Sorry, listeners, because I have been moving all week and it's put had a kind of a weird effect on my ability to play games. We're going to go ahead and go to Giving Me Life. It's giving me life. I'll start this week. So the thing giving me life is I moved into a bigger place, and I'm so excited. The place we'd been living at in Jersey was really tiny and inconvenient. We didn't even really unpack most of our stuff. Like, we just kind of kept it all in boxes. And we've moved into a bigger place. We have so much more room, and I'm just having a good time, just getting it all ready and going to Target and buying storage solutions, that kind of thing. So, yeah, that's it. Giving me life. Rich, what's giving you life?
Okay. This is pretty crazy. But a couple weeks ago, a guy who was the best man at my wedding, good buddy of mine who lives in Tennessee, I'm originally from Tennessee, he reaches out to me and he says, "Hey, Rich, Jeremy Qualls wants to get back the D&D group. He wants to get them back together again." I'm like, sure. He says he's invited Steve, and not our Steve, another Steve in Florida. He's invited Steve and Charlie Pleasant, and he's invited me, and he's trying to reach out to you and Norwood. And I'm like, you're kidding, right? Like, it's been over 20 years. Does he even play? Like, is this 5e? Because I really don't want to go back to second ed. And sure enough, I get a Facebook Messenger invite from Jeremy Qualls, who I spoke to him once about 3.5 years ago, whereupon I ran Lady Blackbird for him. Surprise, surprise. Other than that, that was the only conversation we'd had in 20 years. So he's been running games he's a physicist. He's a physics teacher. He's been running games for people in classes and graduates and the like, and he has not stopped, evidently, over the last period. Cool. So he's like aces at Roll20, and he's got characters that we rolled up characters, and I just, that's what's giving me life, is this whole, like, I immediately rattled off all the jokes that we have to tell. Like, these are the jokes we have to tell because these are the jokes we told 20 years ago, and we all queued them up. And I get to play a half orc because it's in the rules. You can't stop me. And it's just, it's ace. It's so fun. It's going to be just a dungeon romp. There's going to be no story whatsoever, I don't think. I mean, it's Jeremy, and he actually was the first really story heavy DM I ever had. But his thing is like, I've got this dungeon prepped, and I've got all of these things laid out, and here's how Torch works. And I'm like, oh, that's what the game is. But that's fine. That's fine. I'm here with the guys. We're going to rock it out. So it's going to be cool. And there are a couple guys that he has taught previously who are like 10 years younger than us. They're not going to get any of our jokes, and I don't care. And
fuck them.
Damn straight. If you can't keep up, training wheels. Sorry, buddy. So I'm excited. It's D&D 5th Ed, which, by the way, also on the ladder of insanity. So,
oh my god,
lots of love.
Everywhere you turn, there's an opportunity for you to get a ladder.
Yes,
thing,
there is. Yes, there is. So that's giving me life.
Awesome. Andrea, what's giving you life?
My sister's getting married on Friday, and I'm super happy.
Yay!
So last weekend was the bachelorette party. I was the DD, so I got to watch everybody else drink themselves sick. And then I got to nurse them all back to health the following day, but it's really exciting. She's the first one in our family to get married, so we're all real happy for them, and they've been together like 10 years, and it's really cool.
Oh, wow, okay. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Good. Weddings are
Awesome.
fun. Actually, weddings aren't fun. I actually hate going to weddings, but I love, my sister's weddings were fun. Like, that was fun. Mm-hmm. Like, family weddings are fun, but like just college person from college weddings. When we got the announcement, we were like, we're really happy for you. And my brother and I separately were like, please don't make us be in it. Nice.
So,
that's good. Smart move.
Yeah.
Good move.
Awesome.
Cool. Awesome. Lowell, what's giving you life?
So I had a really weird confluence of two things that I bought. One of them is this fellowship game that's a PBTA game that's about a journey.
Oh, yeah, you were telling us about that.
It's really
on Slack, yeah.
Yeah, it's really weird, and it's got a kind of odd structure, and it takes its thing from all the classic sort of JRPG journey things. And at the same time, I bought this game, because I love JRPGs, called Dragon Quest Heroes for the PlayStation 4, and it's Dynasty Warriors, but with the Dragon Quest setting, which I kind of love because it's goofy and dumb and fun. And it is exactly doing what the Fellowship game sets up to do. The characters get together. There's an overlord. There's places of power. They go from place to place. They have to take away places of power. I mean, it's bizarre to read that book at the same time as I'm playing through a game that is doing exactly that same fictional setup. And I kind of love it because it's given me more appreciation for reading the game and an insight, a lens to look at the JRPG through. And that's really fun. It's neat to see a game giving me some critical tools to look at other things. And I think PBTA does that a lot, and it's very cool.
Awesome. All right, well, that's our show, listeners. I'm going to take a minute to talk about the website just a little bit. We have a website. It is gauntlet-rpg.com. On that website, you will find links to our other podcasts, including Discern Realities, the Dungeon World podcast that David Lafreniere and myself do on a weekly, sometimes bi-weekly basis. Plus One Forward, Rich's show about Powered by the Apocalypse games, which is excellent, by the way. It's a great show.
Thank you.
Pocket Size Play, which I really am getting into Pocket Size Play. I'm not going to lie. I love the dynamic that's our little AP cast. I love the dynamic that those guys are developing around their table. You can see it every episode. You can see their dynamic getting like stronger and tighter, and I'm really, really into it. So those are some things that you can find on the website. As well, we have links to our G Plus community, which is really awesome. You guys should go join that. It's a very, very vibrant, active community. We're always there discussing something, or I'm there soliciting for ideas for the next thing that I want to do with the Gauntlet. We have links to our meetups. We have several face-to-face meetups. We also have an online meetup called Gauntlet Hangouts, where Rich and Lowell and myself and a number of other people are running games on a regular basis. So you can come game with us if you'd like to do that. As well, on the website, you can find links to the first issue of our little fanzine called Codex. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there for you guys in case you haven't had a chance to check any of that stuff out yet. Where can we find you guys? Andrea?
I am on G+, Ivory Thorns.
Awesome. Lowell?
G+ as well, EDIGE23 there in Twitter, and I blog at Age of Ravens.
Awesome. And Rich?
Twitter at ORKLORD.
Awesome. And we have a Twitter handle as well for the Gauntlet. It is at Gauntlet RPG. Please go follow us there. We have a paltry number of followers, and I don't know how to get more, except to say, please go follow us. So, awesome. Well, that's our show. Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks, listeners.
Why don't we just rate as guys now?
What do you mean?
You used to always say thank you to each individual member of us, but now we're just guys. Used to do that for 70 episodes. So
I now ask each of you to tell me where we can find you online, and then I feel like if I would
thanked individually, have to go to Twitter.
Oh.